It's been a long time, Snake. I should have known you were behind this, Colonel. Who are you? I like you. I have a name.
What's with these guys? It's like one of my Japanese animes.
So why'd you change? You'd be a lot better off dressed like one of them.
I got tired of disguising myself. The truth is, the uniform smelled like blood.
So that's why you're so obsessed with the big boss. Some warm kind of love.
Love? It's hate! He always told me I was inferior, and now I'll have my revenge!
Metal Gear Solid. I've been waiting to talk about this one. Released in June of 1998 for the Sony PlayStation, it set a hallmark for its outstanding graphics at the time, its cinematic storytelling, its unique gameplay, and top-notch voice acting. Before this game, voice acting in video games was largely a joke.
It's over, Jarek. Shinnok is dead. The good guys won. You're coming back with me.
Never, Sonya. I agreed to help defeat Shinnok, not turn myself into the Special Forces. The Black Dragon, live on!
Yeah, okay, well, not to say games after this didn't have bad voice acting.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
Anyway, let's just get started. Set in the year 2005, 6 years after the events of Metal Gear 2, Foxhound has rebelled and taken over the archipelago island of Shadow Moses. Roy Campbell once again calls Solid Snake out of retirement to infiltrate the island and rescue the hostages, the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson, and the president of Orange Tech, Kenneth Baker. The terrorists have demanded that the government hand over the remains of Big Boss, who is still intact despite being burnt to a crisp, but hey, what do I know?
His body was burned severely, but it was possible to restore his DNA profile from just a single strand of his hair.
Okay, sure, why not? Thanks,
And then
Naomi.
you're gonna transplant those genes.
As soon as you arrive in Shadow Moses, you'll notice the dark, dank feel of the atmosphere. But no time to take it in, I'll just go and... Oh, well, Oh, okay. So first thing you'll notice that your life bar is very small, which is probably to discourage you from approaching combat situations. Many people no doubt just ran right up to the guards and tried to take them all out, and realize that's not how this game works. As you wait for the elevator, you'll notice a nice little touch in the graphics where you can see Snake's breath. One thing that I must stress is kind of annoying is that you have to use the D-pad to move despite the fact that this is a 3D game, which makes movement clunky at times. I imagine this was probably because the analog stick was a late addition to the PS1 controller, so many games at the time didn't code a way to use the analog stick until later on, but that's just my assumption. After you get on the elevator, you'll see Shadow Moses proper. The scenery is dark, always set at night, it's snowing, and generally it sets you in for the atmosphere of the game. This sequence highlights the new feature of Metal Gear Solid compared to its 2D counterparts, the ability to see in first-person view mode being chief among them here. Also, I feel I should point out the Solid's Fallen Raider, which Mei Ling proceeds to explain to you. Now, this isn't a new addition. Metal Gear 2 had its own Raider that I foolishly didn't comment on, but that's because the Raider really doesn't feel that important in that game. This game, however, you'll find yourself constantly looking at the Raider rather than the rest of the screen, but with the top-down perspective of Metal Gear Solid, it's more often than not necessary. After Snake sneaks into the facility, he finds the DARPA chief, who proceeds to explain to Snake that a new model Metal Gear is being developed in Shadow Moses, and tells him how to disarm it using a PAL code. The DARPA chief begins to ask Snake if he's heard of any other way of disarming the PAL codes until he mysteriously dies of a heart attack. After that, Snake runs into Meryl, Colonel Campbell's niece, who, despite hesitance, helps Snake pass some guards before heading off on her own. Not too long after that, Snake finds Baker, and here we are introduced to one of gaming's greatest magnificent bastards, Revolver Ocelot.
Right. Touch that wire, and the C4 will blow up along with the old man. So you're the one that the boss keeps talking about.
And you?
Special Operations Foxhound. Revolver Ocelot.
Now we begin the first boss fight of the game with Revolver Ocelot. It's a fairly standard fight with the constrained space you're in, but it's simple enough once you realize you have to dodge his 6 bullets and then quickly shoot him while he's reloading. After that, your fight is interrupted by the arrival of a cyborg ninja, who chops off Ocelot's hand and escapes. Snake then learns from Baker about Hal Emmerich, designer of Metal Gear Rex. This is where the game really goes into its spiel about how nukes are bad and how they are destroying the world. It's a little long-winded, but I find it gets the job done. After that, Baker dies from a heart attack, which arouses Snake's suspicion. Here's where Metal Gear Solid continues its penchant for breaking the fourth wall, as you must look at the back of the CD case to discover Meryl's frequency. Though this can come off as very jarring at first, it quickly becomes part of the game's charm. These instances of fourth wall breaking are all said with utmost seriousness and with completely straight faces.
0.85. When you want to use the codec, push the select button. When we need to contact you, the codec will beep.
After that, you must face off against a giant enemy tank. This boss battle is relatively simple. Just stay close to the tank, throw a couple grenades, and you're on your way. After that, Snake finds a cyborg ninja threatening Hal Emmerich, whose character is pretty much introduced pissing his pants. The following fight is a straight-on fist fight with the ninja, which only gets somewhat annoying when he decides to use a Dragon Ball Z-esque teleport and fist to the back that can do a lot of damage if you're not careful. After you beat him, it turns out that the cyborg ninja is none other than Gray Fox, who survived his fight with Snake in Zanzibar Land. Naomi then reveals that Fox was revived and uses a guinea pig for Foxhound's Genome Soldiers experiments.
He was already dead.
Yes, but they revived him. They fitted him with a prototype exoskeleton and kept him drugged for 4 years while they experimented on him like a plaything.
Following that, Snake converses with a good doctor who decides to go by the name Otakon, named after an otaku convention. Otakon is horrified that he was used to create weapons just like his father and grandfather, thus continuing his family's dark history of adding on to nuclear weapons. And so begins one of the greatest bromances in gaming with Snake and Otakon, who couldn't be two complete opposites, with Snake as the hardened soldier and Otakon as the sensitive geek. And throughout this whole conversation, Snake has to be thinking, wow, what a dork. Following this, Snake heads to meet up with Meryl, who is disguised as an enemy soldier, and now's as good time as any to show Snake's new ability to snap necks. Okay. Gotcha. Now to wait. There we go. After that, Snake meets up with Meryl, who goes on to be controlled by Psycho Mantis. After dealing with Meryl, Snake confronts Mantis himself. The boss fight against Mantis can be a little tricky due to the awkward controls and top-down perspective. It's best to keep moving and time your shots just when he appears, but eventually he'll go down. Oh, that's right, I almost forgot to mention the controller trick. In order to damage Mantis, you have to switch your controller into controller port 2, otherwise he'll read your attacks. Psycho Mantis' death scene is very well handled as we see a little bit of humanity in him, and does a good job of giving him some sympathy.
I want to be by myself. I want to be left alone in my own world. This is the first time I've ever used my power to help someone. It's strange. It feels kind of nice.
After that, it's time to head to the next boss, and oh look, wolf dogs! Aren't these things just adorable? Oh, not again!
Snake, what's wrong? I thought you were good with dogs.
So after that, Meryl is shot multiple times by a sniper, and Snake is forced to backtrack all the way to the basement of the tank area to get a PSG-1 to fight back. Alright, I got the sniper. It's time to get back to the... Oh, for fuck's sake! Fucking dogs! Get off me! Urgh. The fight with Sniper Wolf is a pretty standard sniper duel. It can get annoying because of the trembling hand, but a pack of cigarettes will help calm Snake's nerves to allow you to take a shot. Following that, Snake is captured and strapped to a huge torture device. Here's where the narrative differs depending on your actions. If you can succeed in resisting the torture, Meryl will survive to the end of the game, but if you submit, Meryl will die. I apologize for the shaking camera during this session, but that had to do with my method of making sure I survived the torture.
How did you like that? Shall we go again?
Following that, Snake escapes and makes his way to the tower building, which mainly consists of running up a bunch of stairs and throwing stun grenades to keep the soldiers from coming after you. Snake is then confronted by Liquid, who is piloting the Hind D from the beginning of the game, and following a brief sequence where you rappel down the side of a building, Snake meets up with Otacon yet again. The two have a rather candid talk about how love can bloom even on a battlefield. Snake obviously thinking about Meryl, and Otacon thinking about Sniper Wolf.
I think at any time, any place, people can fall in love with each other. But if you love someone, you have to be able to protect them.
I think so too.
Snake then confronts the Hindy, and I find myself enjoying this fight in dialogue because it feels right out of an 80s action movie.
I'm you! I'm your shadow!
What?
Ask the father that you killed. I'll send you to hell to meet him!
All you have to do is fire Stinger missile while he is circling and hide while he's shooting bullets at you, and you'll get the job done.
Come on! Fly!
See you in hell, Liquid.
With the Hind D destroyed, it's time to fight Sniper Wolf once again, but Sniper Wolf has more room to move around, and thus it takes a little bit longer. Unlike last time, Sniper Wolf does die from a couple bullets, and her death seems very well handled. It's noticeable that Snake emphasizes and even comforts his enemies in their final moments, showing that despite all claims that he is a cold, remorseless killer, he really isn't, and that's what ultimately differs him from Liquid Snake.
I've seen through evil. You, Snake, you're just like the boss. No, you're worse. Compared to you, I'm not so bad. Wolves are noble animals. They're not like dogs. In Yupik, the word for wolf is Keglanek, and the Aleuts revere them as honorable cousins. They call mercenaries like us dogs of war. It's true. We're all for sale at some price or another. But you're different. Untamed. Solitary. You're no dog. You're a wolf.
With Wolf gone, Snake heads to the underground bunker when Master Miller contacts him and tells him that Naomi is most likely a spy. Despite this information, Snake continues on and finds himself face to face with Vulcan Raven. This boss fight requires you to sneak up on Vulcan Raven with missiles, or just to plant Claymore mines that catch him off guard. Once again, Vulcan Raven's death scene plays up whether or not Snake is forced to walk down a path of endless battle.
You must solve the rest of the riddle yourself. Snake, in the natural world, there's no such thing as boundless slaughter. There's always an end to it. But you are different.
What are you trying to say?
The path you walk on has no end. Each step you take is paved with the corpses of your enemies. Their souls will haunt you forever. You shall have no peace. Hear me, Snake. My spirit will be watching you.
Finally, you find yourself in front of Metal Gear Rex, and after some dialogue from Liquid and Ocelot, you find that you once again have to backtrack to change the memory-shaped alloy key, during which Naomi will contact Snake and will inform him that Gray Fox is her adopted brother and she joined Foxhound to get revenge on Snake. But she finds that he's not the remorseless killer that she believed him to be, punctuated by her conversations with him where he considered Gray Fox to still be his friend despite being on opposite sides. We learn that the Fox Dye virus is what caused the Darba Chief, actually Decoy Octopus, and Baker to die, and that Naomi has programmed it to kill Snake too. But when Snake returns and inputs the last PAL key, it turns out he's activated Metal Gear Rex. Master Miller is really Liquid Snake. Whoops. Liquid then reveals to Snake that he is Snake's twin brother, Les Enfants Terribles project. A project designed to create two clone sons of Big Boss, Solid and Liquid.
I got the flawed recessive genes. Everything was done so that you would be...
Yeah, look, I'm no expert on gene therapy, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. It's time to fight Metal Gear Rex. The fight begins fairly straightforward, using chaff grenades to blind its sensors and blasting its radome with missiles. but it sadly doesn't do the trick. Gray Fox comes to Snake's rescue in the nick of time. Fox is able to destroy the radome, but it costs him his life.
Snake, we're not tools of the government or anyone else. Fighting was the only thing I was good at. But at least I always fought for what I believed in. Snake, farewell.
With newly found vigor, Snake destroys Metal Gear's cockpit. Unfortunately, it turns out the government is going to bomb Shadow Moses to cover up any evidence of Metal Gear. With nothing else left, Snake and Liquid do battle to settle things once and for all. For what it's worth, I like this fight. Nothing but two brothers fighting to the death. Following your victory, Liquid falls to his death just like every villain in every Disney movie ever made. Here's where the narrative differs as stated before. If you had resisted Ocelot's torture, then Meryl survives. If not, she tragically has passed away. This affects who you escape with. Meryl if she lived, and Otacon if she died. Regardless, it doesn't change too much in terms of gameplay, because as you escape, Liquid makes his way after you for a final showdown. I mean, damn, this guy just does not want to die. So after a thrilling escape, Liquid seems to finally have Snake cornered, but he dies a fox die. And the air raid has stopped, and Snake and whoever he escaped with rides off into the sunset determined to live life to the fullest with his lover. Yeah, both versions. Let's not kid ourselves here. Obviously, the Meryl Lives ending is a lot more upbeat, and is ultimately the more rewarding ending, as it's treated as your reward for resisting Ocelot's torture, while the Otacon ending is more bittersweet and poignant, but it shows how Snake and Otacon have bonded throughout the adventure, and both now share a lost love. Includes Metal Gear Solid. The two endings are virtually the same, but you get a different item depending on who you escaped with. A bandana with Meryl, and stealth camouflage with Otacon. You also find out new information depending on the ending you received. If Meryl dies, you will learn that Campbell is actually her father and not her uncle. If Meryl lives, then the person Ocelot talks to on the phone at the end is revealed to be a third clone of Big Boss, Solid Snake, who also turns out to be...
Mr. President.
Yeah, no one that important. The theme of Metal Gear Solid is genes, and how they are passed on to the next generation. Big Boss, the perfect soldier. His genes are passed on to his two sons, Solid and Liquid Snake. We also see how this affects characters like Naomi, Meryl, and Otacon, who are in some way affected by their predecessors. Naomi wants to find out who she is, Meryl looks up to Campbell and Snake and wants to be like them, and Otacon is haunted by his family's dark history, and they have in turn inherited their genes. Snake and Liquid are also defined by genes, being genetic clones of Big Boss. While Liquid is defined by his genes and seeks to break out and prove that he is the superior one, not knowing that he is all along, Snake was the real inferior one. Snake refuses to be defined by his genes and has once again defied the odds by defeating his genetic superior. Otacon and Naomi learn to let go of their past and decide to just live. Meryl has found a hope to cling on to which kept her alive, assuming you got the ending where she lives, of course. Snake has finally conquered the demons that have been haunting him for years.
I think I'm gonna like this new life.
Come on. Let's enjoy life.
Phew! What a game! Snake has overcome so much to finally receive some semblance of a happy ending, but it was not to last. With this game's widespread success, a sequel was inevitable. Join me next time, we'll be talking about Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty.
You mustn't allow yourself to be chained to fate, to be ruled by your genes. Humans can choose the type of life they want to live. The important thing is that you choose life, and then live